They say people don't decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. You want to know who you'll be in 5 years? Don't look at your dreams, look at your daily rituals, because you become what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally attempt, not what you someday plan, not what you hope for late at night, whispering into a pillow full of doubt. What you do when no one's watching, that's who you are. Discipline is not just a tool, it is your identity sculptor. Each action you take is a vote for the kind of person you wish to become. And most people, they cast their vote in the wrong direction. They say they want success, but they live like they expect failure. They say they want peace, but their habits scream chaos. They say they want freedom, but every day they choose their own chains, and the chains aren't always obvious. They're quiet, soft, deceptive, a snoozed alarm, a skipped workout, a promise broken to the self, not loud enough to alarm you, but just strong enough to keep you average. Excellence isn't a singular event. It's not a finish line. It's not something you win and walk away from. It's a standard, lived, breathed, reinforced through action. And the reason most never achieve it, because they believe success is a moment, not a process. They chase milestones, they celebrate too early, and they forget that the real reward is not the outcome. It's who you had to become to get there. When Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, he wasn't just talking about money. He was talking about character. He was talking about habits of thought. He was talking about daily, disciplined, intentional living. He interviewed the titans of industry, Carnegie, Edison, Ford, Rockefeller, and they all shared one trait. They didn't wait for motivation. They lived by standards. Thomas Edison once said, "Success is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration." What he meant is simple. Dreaming is not enough. Wishing is not enough. Even talent is not enough. The repetition of effort is what forges legacy. Because repetition is not just routine, it is rewiring. Each time you do something hard, each time you choose discipline over comfort, each time you show up regardless of emotion, you're reshaping your very identity. Your brain rewires, your self-image recalibrates, and over time you no longer have to try to be that person. You are. There is no transformation without consistency. There is no power in random effort. There is no strength in chaos. You want power? Repeat greatness. You want strength? Repeat self-control. You want confidence? Repeat keeping your own promises. Excellence is not found in the extraordinary. It is forged in the ordinary, done with intensity. 1,000 small disciplines that compound into something unstoppable. Because success doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes, it looks like waking up early when it's still there. Consistency is the furnace where identity is forged. It's not the giant leap once a year that defines your destiny. It's the tiny step, taken every day, especially when it's the last thing you want to do. And here's the truth most never face. You are always becoming something. Every action is shaping you. Even the ones you think don't matter. There's no pause button. Every scroll, every skipped task, every broken promise. You're becoming more of who you are, or more of what you fear. There is no neutral. You are either building momentum or bleeding it. Look at the legends. Muhammad Ali once said, "I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion." He knew what most don't. The person who learns to love the repetition owns the future, because repetition is refinement. Each rep is a blade sharpening the warrior. Each session is a brick in the fortress of mastery. And over time, something happens. The work becomes who you are. You don't need to fight yourself anymore, because you've built a self that doesn't retreat. That's what we're after. Not surface-level success, not temporary hype, but an identity that is forged in steel. An identity that keeps showing up even when the world goes quiet. You want confidence? Don't chase it. Earn it. Stack one powerful action on another until you've built a mountain of evidence that says, "I don't break, I don't bend, I do what must be done." Do you know why most people never change? Because the pain of their present is familiar, and the pain of transformation is unknown. So they choose comfort. They choose the slow death of potential over the temporary discomfort of growth. But you were not born for average. You were not born to coast through life, quietly resentful of the power you never unlocked. You were born with something sacred inside you, but that gift only comes alive through repetition. And I'll say it again, you become what you repeatedly do. If you train courage daily, you will become courageous. If you discipline your mind daily, you will become unshakable. If you speak life into your vision daily, it will become inevitable. But if you repeat fear, if you repeat procrastination, if you repeat playing small to make others comfortable, then don't be surprised when your life looks nothing like the one you dreamed of. Success is not about what you do once. It's about what you don't stop doing. This is the same truth that built nations. Lincoln didn't give one great speech and become a leader. He rose through relentless internal battles. He trained his integrity like a muscle. He suffered, he lost, he bled, but he repeated what mattered. And that's the lesson. If you want to rise, stop asking for easier battles. Start building stronger habits, because life will not hand you transformation. It will test you. It will tempt you. It will tell you that rest is more important to buy. There's a silent war being fought inside you. A battle between two voices. One whispers, "Stay safe." The other roars, "Become more." One says, "This is good enough." The other demands, "Build the life that calls you in your bones." That second voice, it's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's eternal. It's your vision trying to wake you up. Vision is not a fantasy, it is a responsibility. If life placed a dream inside your soul, it is your duty to chase it, to shape it, to bring it to life through relentless, focused action. But you cannot chase a vision that you haven't made clear. Clarity is the starting point of all greatness. Without it, your energy will scatter. Your actions will lack precision. Your identity will become blurry, and blurry identities never move mountains. Ask yourself, who am I becoming by the things I do daily? Is it in alignment with who I say I want to be? Because if your actions and your identity are at war, one will always surrender. And far too often, it's the vision that dies first. Not because it was impossible, but because you didn't act in alignment with it. You said you wanted to lead, but you hid when it was time to speak. You said you wanted freedom, but your habits kept you in chains. You said you wanted greatness, but you kept feeding yourself the routine of the average, and the universe doesn't respond to intentions. It responds to alignment. You want change? Stop setting goals based on who you've been. Start setting standards based on who you're becoming. When your standards rise, your results rise. But most people never elevate their standards because they're afraid to outgrow the identity they've known. It's scary to look in the mirror and realize this version of me cannot take me where I want to go. But that moment, that brutal honesty, that's the beginning of power. Power isn't found in pretending, it's found in precision. The precision to say, I will no longer act like someone who doesn't believe in their future. I will no longer feed the identity of fear, doubt, hesitation, and comfort. I will act in a way that forces the world to see me differently because I see myself differently. You become what you repeatedly do, but you only repeat what you've allowed yourself to believe is normal. Change your definition of normal, and your entire world changes. For Henry Ford, normal wasn't survival, it was revolution. He didn't ask, what can I get away with? He asked, what can I create that will change the way humans live forever? His clarity was insane, obsessive, precise. And that's why his actions didn't waver, because they were attached to a mission. Clarity eliminates hesitation. When you know why you're doing something, you don't stop when it gets hard. You stop when it's done. But that only happens when your vision becomes non-negotiable. Most people negotiate with their future. They compromise, they settle, they say. Purpose is not a luxury. It's not a bonus. It is the engine of your becoming. Without purpose, your actions will lose their meaning. And when meaning disappears, so does momentum. Because in this life, pain is inevitable. But suffering without purpose is what breaks people. The moment you attach your pain to a purpose, it becomes fuel. Every early morning, every sacrifice, every disappointment, it all becomes part of something bigger than you. This is what separates the relentless from the restless. The relentless aren't superhuman, they're just anchored. They know exactly what they're building. They've chosen a cause worth suffering for. And because of that, they don't collapse when life gets heavy. They rise. But most people don't rise because they don't move. They wait for clarity, for confidence, for the perfect conditions. But success doesn't belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who act. While they're still afraid, action is the great purifier. Action kills doubt. Action reveals the path. Action builds confidence that thinking never will. You don't become confident by standing in the mirror repeating empty affirmations. You become confident when you do the hard thing over and over until it's no longer hard. You want unshakable self-belief? Then stop looking for it. Start proving it. Get up when it's hard. Show up when you don't feel ready. Move even when your legs are shaking. That's courage. Not fearlessness, but forward movement in the presence of fear. Because greatness isn't the absence of fear. It's the repeated refusal to be ruled by it. Abraham Lincoln was terrified before every major speech. Walt Disney went bankrupt before creating magic. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company. They weren't fearless. They were just too committed to their purpose to stop. Commitment is what carries you through the silence, when no one claps, when progress is slow. When your effort goes unseen and unrewarded, that's when most people quit. Because they were chasing a result, not serving a mission. But the ones who rise, they aren't just working for something. They're working from something, from vision, from principle, from the fire that says, this matters more than my comfort. And that's the question you have to answer. What do you serve? Comfort or calling? Validation or vision? Because you can't serve both. One will ask you to shrink. The other will demand you grow. One will ask for safety. The other will demand sacrifice. But only one leads to legacy. Your purpose doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to change the whole world. But it must be strong enough to change you, to guide you, to wake you up when comfort tries to lull you back to sleep. That's why repetition matters. Because each repeated action is a reminder. I haven't forgotten what I'm here to do. And on the days when doubt comes, because it will, you'll need something stronger than Mo. The world does not reward rigidity. It rewards those who adapt and without losing their identity. Because things will not go as planned. People will disappoint you. Markets will shift. Strategies will fail. Dreams will test your patience. But adaptability is not the surrender of standards. It is the refinement of strategy in pursuit of purpose. Those who rise are not the ones who had a flawless plan. They are the ones who refuse to quit, even when the plan shattered. Charles Darwin didn't say the strongest survive. He said the most adaptable do, because strength without flexibility is brittle. It breaks under pressure. But strength combined with adaptability, that's unbreakable, because that person can bend, but never collapse. They can shift without losing sight of the target. They evolve and bring their discipline with them. To adapt, you must master your emotions, because the untrained mind is ruled by how it feels. It starts and stops based on mood. It throws away years of work for moments of doubt. It reacts rather than responds. But the elite, the masters, they feel deeply, but they act decisively. They understand a sacred principle. Not every emotion deserves a response. Your feelings are real, but they're not always true. They are data, not commands. Fear is data. Doubt is data. Fatigue is data. You don't run from it. You read it. You assess it. And then you ask, does this serve my mission or sabotage it? Emotional maturity is choosing purpose over panic. It is choosing discipline over drama. And most people, they get stuck in emotional loops. They feel doubt, so they delay. They feel overwhelmed, so they retreat. They feel fear, so they freeze. But those who rise, they feel the exact same emotions, and they move anyway, not because they're fearless, but because they've trained their nervous system to respond to vision, not to chaos. And how do you train that? How do you get stronger emotionally? You learn, relentlessly, ruthlessly, with hunger, because ignorance is expensive. It costs you peace, it costs you time, it costs you dreams. But knowledge, applied knowledge, is power that multiplies. The greats are not just disciplined, they are obsessed students of life. They read, they reflect, they revisit their own mistakes with curiosity, not shame, because they understand something small minds never do. Failure is the most honest teacher in the world. Thomas Edison failed over 10,000 times trying to create the light bulb. And when asked about it, he didn't say, "I failed." He said, "I found 10,000 ways that didn't work." That's how visionaries think. Not like victims, not like perfectionists. They expect difficulty. They anticipate it. And then they absorb it into their growth. They don't break down. They build up. They turn pressure into power, pain into perspective, loss into learning. So here's what you must understand. Every time you fail, the world isn't. And now we arrive at the moment where stories either fade or become legend. The moment where average gives way to awakening. Where you finally stop looking outside for permission and start looking within for power. Because it was never about luck. Never about talent. Never about your past, your pain, your parents, or your problems. It was about this. Would you do what must be done? Long after the feeling is gone? Would you rise when no one claps? Would you hold the standard when no one's watching? Would you repeat the hard things until they become who you are? Because this is the place where lives are transformed. Not in noise, but in discipline. Not in dreams, but in decisions. Not in talk, but in relentless repetition. You don't need more motivation. You don't need another YouTube video or another burst of hype. What you need is a moment of absolute decision, a line in the sand, a vow to yourself, a full-body yes to the person you were born to become. You've waited long enough. You've flirted with potential long enough. You've let comfort dress itself up as peace for far too long. This is the moment where you choose discomfort over decay, discipline over drifting, commitment over convenience. This is the moment where you stop chasing highs and start chasing honor. Because when you do the hard thing again and again, you don't just get results, you gain reputation. Not in the world's eyes, but in your own. You start to look in the mirror and recognize yourself again, not as someone who hides, not as someone who hopes, but as someone who follows through, as someone who's done negotiating with mediocrity. And in that moment, you become dangerous. Because nothing is more powerful than a human being who trusts themselves. Let the world watch you shift. Let them wonder where the old you went. Let them talk, because they will see the habits change. They'll feel the presence change. And one day they'll have no choice but to ask, "How did you do it?" And your answer: "I didn't just dream different. I didn't just wish different. I acted different every single day. I repeated excellence until it replaced my old identity." You don't rise by accident. You don't evolve by chance. You become by doing over and over. On the days you feel like it, and especially on the days you don't. Because your new life is going to cost you your old one. And that's a price most aren't willing to pay. But if you are, if you're ready to let go of delay, distraction, and denial, if you're ready to step into the fire of becoming, then prepare. Because everything you've prayed for, visualized, written down, and whispered at 2 a.m. is on the other side of your habits. You want wealth? Make discipline your daily partner. You want peace? Create order from the inside out. You want freedom? Be so consistent they can never question your worth. You want greatness? Then don't just do great things. Become the kind.